Okay, today we're going to do an oil and filter change on a Hyundai Tucson. So this is a 2019 TL series. It has a 2-litre turbo diesel engine. So it's the D4HA Hyundai turbo diesel 2-litre. So that same engine's in the Kia Sportage as well. So if you've got one of those, or anything with a D4HA diesel, this video should apply to you and give you a helping hand. So we've been for a drive. The engine's up to temperature. It's been cooling for about 15 minutes. I've got it up on the quick jacks. I've also thrown in some jack stands just in case something fails. We've got something that hopefully might prevent me from dying. Also, I've thrown under a sheet of cardboard under the car just to catch any oil spills, just in case I slop some around. Keep the garage floor nice and clean. So we'll just run through what you're going to need. I haven't got the underside tray off from the engine yet, so I don't know what size socket the sump takes, but I'll fill you in on that as we go through. Okay, so we're going to need some oil. So we're using a C2 030. If you check your owner's manual, you can see here, I'll just try and focus on that. So this is the 2-litre diesel. Sump capacity with a filter change is 7.6 litres. So this car has a DPF, so here they're specifying a C2 or a C3. Over the page, I think, or a couple of pages, yeah, here we go here. So yeah, this is the diesel engine oil temperature range for viscosity. So we're using a 030 here, so that's got the widest range of temperature application. So most markets will probably be using a 030 or a 040 engine oil. Okay, so what are you going to need? You'll need a oil filter. I'll put there's the part number there. I'll just stop wobbling around so you can catch that. I'll put that in the description anyway. I picked up that filter from eBay, and they sent me a sump plug washer as well, which was handy. So I don't know the part number for that, but I'll try and find that and shove that in the description as well. Engine oil, so this is a 7-litre drum. Handy because we're going to put 7.6 litres in here. So I've got a 7-litre drum, so it's going to make it easier to get it in there. Also got a plastic oil bottle, so I'll be able to measure out another 600 ml from a 20-litre container of the same oil. So if you're going to do your oil changes, try and buy in bulk. You'll save a lot of money doing it that way than buying it by the 5 and 7-litre containers. For your first change, grab a 7-litre container so you can just refill that from the 20-litre drum. Yeah, save yourself a lot of money and a bit easier to work with. A large capacity oil pan, so I think that's about 9 litres. So yeah, most of them go to about 6, the standard size one, so make sure you get a bigger one because you've got 7.6 litres of oil coming out of this thing, so you don't want to overflow and spill it all over the floor. Grab some nitrile gloves as well, and you're also going to need some sockets, but as I said before, I'll let you know what sizes you're going to need as we go through. I've also got a cordless drill with a 10mm hex bit on the end of it to get the sump guard off. So we'll go ahead and do that. And hop into it. Okay, so we're under the car. So we've got to remove this under tray here to be able to get to the sump plug and the oil filter housing. Why they didn't leave holes in here to access those, I don't know, but anyway, this is what we've got. So you'll see that there's a series of these 10mm screws holding this thing up. So I've just missed that one. So yeah, there's one there. There looks to be about 12 of those floating around. I'm going to just drop them into Malteser's container. So yep, so we'll take all those down and we'll drop this under tray, and then I'll show you the access for the oil filter and the sump plug. Okay, so all of those screws are out there, so this should just go back towards the rear of the car. Oh no, I tell a lie, I've got one left. Okay. So let's pull that out there. Okay, so that is the oil filter housing just there, and then straight back behind it is the sump with the plug just there. So I'll grab a socket and throw that on there, and I'll tell you what size that is. The oil filter housing, I think it's a 6mm hex key that just goes in there to loosen that off, but I'll throw a key on that and tell you for sure. Okay, so the sump plug is 17mm, and as I said before, the Allen key that you're going to need to loosen off the filter housing is 6mm. So we'll go ahead and loosen off the sump first, and we'll drain that, and once most of the oil's out of there, we'll go ahead and remove the filter housing. Because of the design, this thing is going to be full of oil, so you need to have your sump pan underneath that when you drain that. Other cars that I've worked with, they've had these up the top, so that makes it a lot easier and less messy. Anyway, that's how they've done it. So we'll just loosen that off, and hopefully land the oil in the pan and not on the cardboard, which isn't so bad. At least it's not on the garage floor. Right, there we go. So we'll just let that drain for 15 minutes. And once it's done that, we'll replace the sump plug washer that's sitting on there. I'll clean that up a bit so you can see that, and then we'll get that back in, and then we'll move the drain pan forward underneath the filter housing, and we'll remove that. Yeah, forgot to tell you, throw in your nitrile gloves as well. Oil's nasty shit, especially when it's been through an engine. You don't really want to get it on your hands if you can avoid it. I'll just move that forward and allow that to drain. Okay, so while that's draining, these vehicles have a 12-month or 15,000 kilometre service interval, whichever comes first. I'm planning on keeping this car for quite a while, so I'm doing the changes every 7,500 kilometres or 6 months, whichever comes first. Generally we rack up about 26,000 Ks in this over a year, but due to the COVID shit going on at the moment, we've done a lot less than that. Okay, so we've got our sump plug. We'll just take the old sump plug washer off there. You don't want to reuse these are all crush washers, so reusing them might lead to a leak, and you don't want that. Yeah, so it's just come off there. like so. So that's going in the bin. As I said, the seller kindly included a sump plug washer with the filter, so I'll just throw that on. That just goes on there like that, ready to reinstall. I'll just show you this filter. Okay, so you get the filter. There's also an O-ring to go around the filter housing. I'll show you that when we come to install that. And they give you a new bolt, likely because it's got a washer on the end of it. Yeah, that's interesting. I thought they would have just given you a new O-ring rather than giving you the whole thing, but that's what they've done. Okay, while you've got that guard off and the oil's draining, it's a good time to have a look around underneath the car and see if there's any other issues. So I've found one. So you can see here I've got a lot of oil coming out of the front of the automatic transmission. So I'll be drawing that to Hyundai's attention at its next service. So yeah, have a good look around underneath the car and just make sure that you don't find any leaks or busted boots or anything like that. And yeah, you can take note of those and just get them fixed at the next service. This car's still under warranty, so we'll have them attend to that. Okay, we'll get the sump plug back in. Just clean that up with a bit of rag. Still dripping a little bit, but it's not too bad. So you want to put this in by hand all the way as far as you can. Clean a bit of oil off it. Yeah, do it up by hand and then put a tool on it. If you put a socket on it straight away and you cross thread it, then you're buggered. So don't do that. I'll just tighten that up. Just be careful tightening it up. You'll feel the washer crush a little, and then yeah, you don't want to be swinging off it. Just make sure it's tight but not over tight. It's not holding anything down. It's just got to stay in there until your next service. So yeah, one ugga instead of 10. Yeah, just needs to be firm in there. Okay, so we'll pull the tray to the front. Okay, so we'll remove this oil filter housing. As I said before, 6mm Allen key. And once again, lefty-loosey. Righty-tighty. So that just unscrews there. And you should get oil coming out of this because there was an O-ring on it. So I guess the idea is that this will drain all the oil out of the filter housing and then you can remove it. So it's loose there now. Hopefully our aim is right and this will go into the oil pan. Right. As I said before, this bit here is a throwaway item, so I'll chuck that in the bin. I'll just let that housing drain completely and then we'll get a socket on that to remove that housing. I'll let you know what size that's going to be. It's there as a drain, so you don't make a mess when you take this thing off. So they've made that bigger than the size of the socket that's going to go on there to remove that. So you must remove this first and then get onto that. Okay, the socket you're going to need to remove the filter housing is 24mm. So we'll get onto that. So once again, lefty loosey. Okay, so that's hand tight now. I just grabbed another container to drop that into. Okay, so I'll throw that in there. I'll just take that over to the bench and I'll show you how to fit the new filter. Okay, so we've got the oil filter housing, so that gets thrown because it's got an O-ring on there, and they supply you with a new one, with a new filter, so that goes in the bin. The filter should just pop out of there like so, so that's going in the bin as well. You can see that there's writing on the bottom of it. I don't know whether there's a right way or a wrong way to fit this, but we'll fit it the same way. So that's going in the bin. You'll also see with your new filter that you've got a new O-ring, so that goes on here. So we've got to get the old one off. Just grab a small flat screwdriver and just pull that off there. Very important you take that off. Get rid of the old one, throw it in the bin, and replace that. Do that right now. So that's on there. We'll just run a bit of oil around that as well, just so it doesn't bind when it's getting put back in. And then we can push our new oil filter on there. So that just clips in there like so. So that's ready to get screwed back on into the car, and then we'll finish it off with that retaining bolt that goes on the bottom of there. Once that's in, I'll spray it down with a bit of degreaser and clean that up a bit. Okay, so we'll get that back in the car. Get this filter in. You can see that there's oil dripped down the side of the sump. So yeah, we're going to need some degreaser to clean that up, but that's no problem. Okay, so filter housing goes back in as it came out. Once again, screw this in as far as you can by hand, and then get a socket on it. So that's about as far as I'm going to get. So we'll get our 24mm socket back on there. Get that tightened up all the way. Okay, so it's tight there. Now we just grab our retaining bolt, or drain bolt, I guess it is. Yeah, that'll be what it is, a drain bolt. Good thinking, Hyundai. And get our 6mm Allen key on that. Right, so that's pretty firm in there. So yeah, I'll get some degreaser and spray that down a little later on. Okay, so now it's time to get some oil in the engine. So from the front of the car, the oil filler is just on the back of the engine cover, just down here. So we'll loosen that off and grab a funnel, and we'll get our engine oil in there. Okay, so using our 7-litre container, we'll pour some oil in there, and then we can get into it with the balance, which is 600ml. so we've got all our oil in there. So the only thing left to do really is to throw back on the oil cap, clean up underneath the car around the oil filter housing, just where it's dripped down under the sump there. Just use a bit of degreaser on that. And once that's done, you can just go ahead and put the engine cover on underneath, and you're done. So hopefully that's provided people with a bit of assistance who want to DIY oil changes on this platform. Okay, thank you.